Have you ever finished an anime episode and felt like the story didn't end? It followed you into your thoughts. Have you ever noticed that anime fans today aren't bonding over who won, but who broke first? Let me throw a question at you that might sound dramatic, but is disturbingly real. Why does pain feel more addictive than peace in modern anime? There was a time when anime carried an unspoken vow, not written in scripts, not printed on posters, but woven into the emotional DNA of the medium. You could feel it when the opening theme hit, when the hero screamed their determination into the sky, when a tragic flashback played right before the comeback punch. The underlying assumption was always there. Hope wasn't negotiable, it was inevitable. Even in stories that showed death, grief, monsters, betrayal, and psychological torment, anime always felt like a voice whispering under the soundtrack, "You can cry here, but I'll hold you at the end." Back then, anime darkness worked like a storm in the distance. Threatening, loud, cinematic, but always temporary. It made us gasp, but never left us homeless emotionally. The hero might fall to their knees, but the narrative itself would never fall with them. The world could be cruel, but the story was kind. Pain was not pointless. It was a prelude to triumph. Suffering wasn't tragedy, it was training montage material. Heroes were allowed to suffer, but only in a controlled, purposeful dose. Their despair had narrative permission, like a chapter signed off by destiny itself. The fandom didn't question the outcome. We questioned the method, the power scaling, the animation quality, the soundtrack, the villain design, but never the emotional safety of the conclusion. Hope was the narrative landlord. Darkness was the tenant. But now darkness owns the house. Let's talk about that emotional shift. Like adults having a midnight conversation we were never ready for as kids. Modern anime no longer treats suffering like a lesson. It treats suffering like a fact of existence. It doesn't ask you to believe pain leads to meaning. It assumes you already know pain can exist without meaning, and that meaning has to be carved manually, painfully, imperfectly, sometimes even unsuccessfully. Older anime believed in emotional payoff. Modern anime believes in emotional aftermath, and the aftermath isn't comforting. It reveals. So let me ask you again, but slower this time, like a question meant for the soul, not the hype. When was the last time anime made you feel emotionally sheltered instead of emotionally exposed? Because modern anime doesn't build heroes to rescue us from despair. It builds heroes to show us what despair looks like when someone tries to carry it alone. And we don't turn away from it. We defend it, celebrate it, theorize it, make edits out of it, obsess over it. Why? Because somewhere along the generational timeline, we stopped wanting hope that feels scripted and started wanting hope that feels survived. Now anime reflects not the belief that light wins, but the more uncomfortable truth. Light doesn't win unless someone pays for it first. Let's dissect the cultural atmosphere that changed anime's emotional color grading. The world outside the screen evolved faster than the medium inside it. The internet turned suffering into a public language, not a private wound. Social platforms built a new emotional literacy where vulnerability is currency, tragedy is commentary, and moral confusion is entertainment fuel. We scroll through dark themes daily: corruption, mental collapse, ideological warfare, economic instability, personal identity crises, emotional burnout, societal mistrust, the cost of ambition, the fragility of dreams, the death of innocence, and the normalization of existential weight. So, anime didn't make us darker. The world did. Anime just finally said, "I'll stop pretending you're not carrying it." And we responded by cheering for stories that hurt, not stories that lie about healing. Because nothing feels faker now than a story that heals too cleanly. The shift, the transformation of anime into darker emotional territory is not a random aesthetic trend. It is a narrative reflection of a psychological era. In earlier decades, anime relied on external conflict. Villains, monsters, wars, invasions, demons, curses, rival kingdoms, corrupt empires, or catastrophic threats. The drama came from a world that demanded saving. The hero existed to restore balance. The enemy existed to be defeated. The stakes were epic, but emotionally safe because the conclusion was always prepaid. Modern anime reversed the equation. The stakes are still epic, but the conflict is internal first, external second. Today, anime no longer asks, "Can the hero defeat the enemy?" It asks, "Can the hero survive themselves after defeating the enemy?" Analytically, this marks a shift from idealistic heroism to consequential heroism. Emotional storytelling no longer relies on the glory of triumph, but the cost of it. Heroes are no longer symbols of guaranteed salvation. They are psychological battlegrounds shaped by failure, identity fracture, trauma persistence, moral erosion, and endurance without applause. Emotionally, this connects more violently because the audience no longer wants fictional bravery. We want fictional honesty. This era didn't just make anime darker, it made anime psychologically literate. It learned how to translate loneliness into identity, trauma into relatability, moral collapse into obsession, nihilism into narrative poetry, consequence into character evolution, survival into emotional currency, villains into philosophical mirrors, and hope into something fragile but stubborn. The shift is not visual, it is emotional syntax. Modern protagonists don't glow because they are destined. They glow because they are refusing to disappear despite having every reason to. That is no longer hype. That is emotional citizenship in suffering. Why darkness sells? Darkness sells now because it creates mental aftershocks, not emotional closure. Human psychology attaches emotionally to characters who suffer realistically. Vulnerability is no longer a weakness, it's a narrative magnet. When a character displays emotional exposure without resolution, we empathize faster, bond deeper, and remember longer. Older anime told us who was right. Modern anime asks us to question if anyone is right at all. The brain loves moral puzzles because it turns stories into cognitive debates that continue after watching. When morality is unclear, engagement becomes longer, not shorter. When the brain cannot forecast emotional payoff, anticipation spikes, uncertainty releases dopamine. That is why anime that delays healing or cancels it entirely keeps viewers obsessively attached. Modern viewers connect because the story stops performing healing theatrically. It performs suffering authentically. We relate not because trauma is exaggerated, but because trauma is familiar. Modern anime sells darkness because the world outside already exhausted us mentally. We want stories that say, "I understand the weight you carry." And darkness delivers that weight without mocking it, minimizing it, or resolving it cheaply. That is why darkness sells. Not because it's dark, but because it is psychologically fluent. Quick poll moment. Let's pause the narrative voice for a second. Because your mind deserves a vote too. Right now, answer this silently or out loud in your head. Do you watch anime to escape your emotions or to confront them? Hold on to your answer. We're coming back to it soon. Is hope actually gone? Here is the truth. Hope didn't die. Its guarantee did. Modern anime didn't delete hope. It relocated it. It stopped being the trophy at the end and became the negotiation inside the journey. Hope now behaves like real life. Uncertain, conditional, tested, delayed, questioned, wounded, expensive, and sometimes, heartbreakingly, denied. When hope appears now, it appears like a survivor, not a prophecy. A stubborn emotional refugee refusing erasure, not loud, not clean, not triumphant in the classic sense, but alive despite collapse. Hope is no longer the finale, it is the tension, and tension keeps us watching. Anime isn't getting darker because it hates hope. Anime is getting darker because it respects truth more than illusion now. And we don't binge darker anime because we want sadness. We binge darker anime because we want identity, consequence, realism, psychological mirrors, and emotional honesty without apology. If this hit your heart and your brain at the same time, then you're already part of the conversation modern anime has been building for you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts, because this is more than a trend. This is a generational identity shift in storytelling, fandom, and emotional connection. So drop a comment and tell me, what was the last anime that broke you and made you thank it for the pain?